thing is, they make you put the furniture together yourself. Hello, my name is Will, and this is Exploding Helicopter, the podcast that always orders a triple espresso. With computer hacking increasingly a feature of today's world, it's easy to think that films about cybersecurity subversion are a recent phenomenon. However, they've been around a lot longer than you might first imagine. In the early 1980s, we got two films that really put the subject centre stage, Tron and War Games. Yet you can trace computer hacking in films back even further than that. For instance, The Italian Job in 1969 featured nerds infiltrating the computer controlling Rome's traffic control system. We're not going back that far on this show, we're just rewinding to 2001 and a film that sought to make tapping a keyboard sexy and exciting. So on this show we're reviewing Swordfish. To help me review the film, I'm joined by a grungy wannabe who's searching for existentialism through a haze of bong smoke. It's my good friend Nick Rehak. How you doing, buddy?
I am fantastic. A little hazy, but fantastic.
Well, that's good to know. So hopefully your thinking isn't so clouded that you can't help me get stuck into the biggest question I think posed by this film, which is Dog Day Afternoon Al Pacino's best work?
Ooh. Have you ever heard of Adam Sandler's film Jack and Jill?
I have heard of it, but I know nothing about it. He's not in that, is he?
He is.
Oh my God.
That's why I brought it up. I was like, what's the most obscure film or most ridiculous film I could think of with him in it? And that's the one I came up with. But for a real answer, though, for me, it's Godfather 2.
Okay. Solid choice.
Yeah, that's for me. I mean, I do enjoy Scarface as like a big, dumb Hollywood film, but if you want something like subtleties and simplicities, there's something about Godfather 2 that just works. Like, it just does it for me. To me, it's like a masterclass. More from him. I know De Niro gets a lot of love in that film, but I think Pacino kind of edges out De Niro in that because that's before he started getting like really intense and really over the top. There's just these subtleties and nuances to the role that's like, wow, that's power, that's control, that's this. It just, there's so many layers, I feel.
As for myself, I'm afraid I have to be reluctant to actually pick Al Pacino's best work because, Nick, as I'm sure you already know, Al Pacino has never made a film with an exploding helicopter.
And I find that so hard to believe.
Exactly, right? Because, I mean, if he's been in, Drek, like Jack and Jill, then surely he should have appeared in something with an exploding helicopter.
Because he's been in Heat. He was in that 88 Seconds or 88 Minutes movie, which was like kind of like a heisty kind of thing. Yep. He's been in films where there's like a great possibility for something like that to happen.
I mean, at the time of recording, he just turned 85. So I fear, though, time is running out if Al Pacino's going to break his exploding helicopter duck.
He's got to do something. He didn't even make, not even in Devil's Advocate. Like, somehow he didn't make just one blow up. The Recruit, he did The Recruit. Like, why wouldn't? That's what it was. Not SWAT. It was The Recruit with what's his face? Him. But there's got to be. He had to have done one of them, right? Like, it can't be. Now you really got me, like.
Well, confused. I haven't watched all of his recent DTV offerings over the last sort of 15, 20 years where he's just been bulking out his pension. But, I'm pretty confident that if an exploding helicopter had occurred in one of those films, somebody would have told me about it. And but yeah, as of yet, still to break his exploding helicopter duck.
That is insanely depressing because he should have at least one. Hell, even Scarface. There should have been one. There's plenty of opportunity for one, but no.
Okay, well, let's not get sidetracked by Al Pacino and his failings as an actor and failings in his career. I think it's probably time that we got stuck into Swordfish instead. So we're going to have a quick listen to the trailer. But before we do that, let's see if Mr. Travolta can let us know what he thinks of the podcast so far.
Good job. Senator, we have a problem. Did you know that I can buy nuclear warheads for $40 million each? Hell, I buy half a dozen and even get a discount.
What do you think is going to happen if he starts tying up loose ends? My employer wants to meet you.
He'll pay you just to meet you, Stan.
Ever heard of Operation Swordfish?
Nope.
This is a sweet deal. $9.5 billion. Do you have any idea of how much money that is? We go in over the phone lines, pop the firewall, sit back, wait for the money. So what we need from you, Stanley, is a worm. Marco, let's give him some incentive.
Hey, what are you doing?
I have been told that the best crackers in the world can do this in 60 minutes. Unfortunately, I need someone who can do it in 60 seconds.
You're kidding.
Go!
Swordfish is a 2001 action thriller film directed by Dominic Sena. The story revolves around a skilled hacker, played by Hugh Jackman, who is recruited by John Travolta, the leader of a covert counter-terrorist unit called Black Cell. Travolta needs Jackman's hacking expertise to access a government slush fund containing billions of dollars. Jackman, who is on parole and forbidden from using computers, reluctantly agrees because he needs the money to regain custody of his daughter. As Jackman delves deeper into the mission, he discovers the true extent of Travolta's plans and the dangerous world he's been pulled into. In the cast we have John Travolta, Hugh Jackman, Halle Berry, Don Cheadle, Vinnie Jones and Sam Shepard. The film was written by Skip Woods, who's penned lots of high-concept thrillers, including Die Hard 4, Good Day to Die Hard, The A-Team and the Hitman movies. A quick word on director Dominic Sena. He was coming into this off the back of Gone in 60 Seconds, which was a big hit. However, he's only made 3 films since Swordfish, and after 2011's Season of the Witch, he's not been seen since. This film has a 6.5 user rating on IMDb and a 2.7 user rating on Letterboxd. The film made $147 million worldwide off its $100 million budget, so a bit of a dud in terms of its box office. Critically, the film wasn't popular, and it was described as cinema of morons, made by morons, for morons, and also as exhibiting rank incompetence on every level. So with all of that out of the way, Nick, what did you make of Swordfish?
I mean, I think that's a little harsh, just a bit. But overall, though, it's something. I feel like there was miscastings here that if different actors were in place, the film would have been appreciated and accepted that much more, and it would have gone into a so bad it's good or even potentially cult-like status that the people that are into this movie are into this movie, and those that don't obviously don't like it at all. There's, for me, a couple plot holes, which I know I'm complaining about plot holes in this kind of movie, but I feel like if we had gotten an extra 5 minutes sprinkled here and there, it could have been more fully fleshed out. But I think it's fine. It's funny to look back at this film now, being that it's 24 years later, and just the technology of things and how things have evolved. And I'm watching this being like, yeah, that wouldn't have really happened, or okay, that was maybe ahead of its time. So to have that as kind of like a little time capsule was interesting to see. But overall, I'm like, this is fine. There's parts of me that go through like, oh, this is so great, I can't wait to watch this again. And there's other part of me is like, yeah, but you would just be buying the movie ironically. Like, don't buy this to put on your shelf if you're truly not gonna watch it again. Like, you're just gonna, as a goof, someone comes over, hey, you guys want to watch Swordfish? Like, that's not what's happening. But I mean, overall, it's fine. There's nothing overly remarkable about it at the end of the day. Like, it's just okay.
I mean, you can enjoy watching this film. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's absolute nonsense from start to finish. It doesn't make any sense. I think you said it's got a few plot holes. I think it's got a huge grating absence of plot in several important sections. But, if you turn your brain off and don't apply any kind of critical filters to this film, you could easily enjoy this film. And I had fun rewatching it. I haven't seen it for a long time, and I had forgotten just what sort of spectacular level of bunkum this is. I mean, it is just, it really tries to be. I'd love to know how knowing it is. I don't know whether, I think everyone involved thought they were making a high concept thriller, but I do wonder as to the sort of the levels of self-awareness that were going on here. I think there probably wasn't enough self-awareness, but maybe I'm doing a disservice to the people involved. But let's maybe start at the most logical place in this film. I mean, let's talk about the opening of this film, because it's very striking for two things. I mean, you get this monologue from John Travolta, and you also get a very famously complicated special effects shot. I don't know which one of those you want to take first. We're going to tackle both of them, but what did you make of the opening? Because it's certainly very memorable.
It really is. And when it started, he starts, and I'm just like, okay, it's one of these. And it just becomes very Tarantino-esque. There's no other real way to describe it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, and we're still talking about it. No one else is chiming in. And I'm like, okay, so we don't know who he's talking to yet. And after a while, I'm like, now it's just obnoxious. Because this is one of those guys where he can introduce it and then ask a question, and then you have a conversation about it, right? That's what makes Tarantino's conversations and monologues like that work. Because, yes, it's not a monologue in the sense that they're just talking for like 5 minutes straight. There's little interjections here and there that heighten the speech that's being given and adds to the conversation. He's just going on, and he'll try to make like a really concise point, but then dial back and make it seem like he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's like, oh yeah, cinematography and screenplay is great. No one talks like that. People say like the script or how it looked. Like, you know what I mean? And it's so weird to see Travolta kind of in that way, because even when he was in a Tarantino film, that's not what his character was. Now, I'm not saying he can't handle that type of role and type of monologue, but in my mind, it just didn't fit after a while. I'm like, all right, dude, we get it. Like, you're really trying hard in order to do this. And then, yeah, I agree. All of a sudden, he gets to this, like, super complicated shot that happens, and I'm like, how are they pulling this off? And why? Why do we need something like this in this film? Because it even goes back to the poster for it, right? Excuse me, where you have Halle Berry, Travolta, Jackman, and Don Cheadle kind of all in a room together. They're not on a team together. They're all very different people that kind of come together. And it makes it seem like, okay, these guys are a team and they're planning a heist or they're going to steal something. The film goes through so many iterations of what it wants to try and do and be that it ends up getting lost. It ends up just being, like we said, okay and fine. It doesn't stick to one particular thing. So when you have this guy going on and on and on about movies and how they're not great anymore because there's no realism to it, okay, this character doesn't monologue and do that kind of thing. Well, he kind of does when he talks about like Houdini and stuff, but to all of a sudden go from that to a dramatic action shift, and then we don't really get those type of beats throughout the rest of the film, it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, it feels like they're just shoehorning the action in there in order to pad it out's not the word. But like that explosion at the beginning, no need for it to be that long. It could have just one big bam and then off we go to the races. Like, it didn't need to be as convoluted as it was.
Well, I mean, as a complete package, it's really, really showy. That is, it's a massive piece of kind of extravagant. I can't think of the word, but showing off here from the director and from and
John, it looks great.
Yeah. But it's such a ballsy opening in the sense of you're going to have John Travolta deliver this monologue criticizing Hollywood for moronic dialogue, for, a lack of realism, for bad acting. And like, I mean, it's all, you could almost say this is John Travolta reviewing the film Swordfish himself. I mean, it just is, I don't know. This is what makes me wonder sometimes about the level of self-awareness that's going on in this film. Like, is this meant to be tongue-in-cheek and a joke? I kind of think it isn't. But, I mean, it just is so outlandish that you sort of think, well, surely someone's got to... You're going to have to be making a hell of a film if you're going to have somebody delivering this monologue at the beginning of the film.
Yeah, it's going to have to be, because we're setting the tone. But then all of a sudden, like you said, if you go the complete 180, if you go to the true antithesis of that statement, right? all these big budgets and this and nothing's real. It's like we just watch an entire CGI. There's so many different facets about this film that aren't real. How they display hacking isn't real. The closest they've ever gotten to like legitimately showing the hacking or like is War Games, right? Where you're just a guy at a monitor with a screen and lines of code, That's all it is. Now they make these fancy user interfaces for, us to see what it looks like, what's going on. But that would take so much data and memory, and it's easier to just pop something up, start typing away, and to visualize it as the coder or the hacker, and then make it happen. But with this, it's got to be a little excessive. Kind of like in Jurassic Park. Remember when she's like, oh, we're going to hack into this, and it's like little cubes bouncing around and doing stuff on the screen? I'm like, not how this works. Not how any of this works. But here we are for realism. So it makes me wonder, too, like, are they being pretentious in a way? Are they trying to, like you said, do they understand it or do they not understand it? And I'm having a hard time thinking about this film and trying to decipher between the two, because there are some moments that like really work. When
Such as?
When Jackman discovers that Halle Berry's character is like DEA, there's like a legit tension there, and they're trying to figure something out. But then you can't also have them jumping off of cliffs and rolling down hills. When you see them make that first leap, all of their legs are getting broken. There's no way they just roll down and then get up and running. So there's just such a, here's what I feel about this, and then it's just everything but that. It doesn't, but even then, how would they be able to say, like, wink, wink, nod, nod? Like, how do they make it tongue-in-cheek without like telling us that they're doing that? Because that's the big thing for me. I can understand if this is a send up a bit, or they're like really laying into it, but how would they tell us that? How are we supposed to know? Because so far they're not doing a good job of telling us, what exactly tonally they're trying to get across.
Well, you brought up hacking here, Nick, and I had a question for you, because I think, in my opinion, there is nothing more inherently uncinematic than computer hacking. I mean, if you think about it, it always just boils down to someone sitting at a keyboard tapping away whilst trying to look intense. People have tried to jazz that up, and they certainly try to jazz that up here, but it always fails, and I just don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, if I was making films, I'd go nowhere near computer hacking, because I'd just be like, there's nothing I can do. Nothing I can do with this.
Well, I think you just got to find a way to make it creative and not do the whole, like, the shot is the back of the monitor. We're looking past that to see the person, like you said, very intense. And they're like, hacking into the mainframe. I'm trying to use a password. Oh, no, they got my password bomb. Oh, no, this worm's not working. Oh, no, they've caught me. I'm kicked out of the system. They've logged me out. Oh, no, all my stuff's deleted. RAM. Like, they don't. There has to be a more interesting way to show that. There has to be other characters are having a conversation, right? Or maybe you do something where somebody's hacking in the background and then there's like some people fighting in the foreground, like actual like fists or knives and stuff. Like there's got to be something you can do instead of that default, because you're right. You're absolutely right. It is a very boring thing to see. And even when you're doing like hacking in the midst of it, like in the real world and everything, it's boring because you're just looking at lines of code, you're thinking, you're typing some stuff. Sometimes you're against the clock, sometimes you're not, but even then, you just kind of go dead behind the eyes like a shark looking for a fish. There's no way to jazz it up. If you're working out, right, you can have different type of weights and activities, and you have music going. There's stuff to make it look cool and make you feel cool. You don't really have that with hacking. You're just kind of sitting at a desk. You're not doing any physical activity other than moving your hands around. So you could have music going.
You're telling me you don't have somebody filleting you whilst you're hacking?
I've never had that. Never, ever had that. And can you imagine asking someone, hey, can you do this to me while I'm just on my computer clicking around on some keys? What? What? My wife would tell me to go outside.
Why does John Travolta even do that? Like, why?
I don't understand that. Putting a gun to someone's head is enough. I don't know why. What's the added stress? If I'm never going to be in a situation where I'm hacking and like there's so much extra stimuli.
Yeah.
Right? I could see, oh no, I have a minute before the portal closes and I can't get back in, or time, whatever. Okay, you're hurrying up, you have that minute, you're sweating, you're trying to think. You're your own worst enemy at that point. But if you go throwing in a gun, okay, that's something extra. Let me work through this. But now you have a gun and the fellatio part. It's like, what are we trying to prove here? What are we actually doing?
I mean, I don't know about you, Nick, nothing would be working for me in that situation. I wouldn't be able to hack. I certainly wouldn't be able to perform downstairs either. Like, it'd just be...
Oh, God, no. I'd be too busy apologizing. Like, look, sorry, if we were in different circumstances, this would be much more. This would be better for you. And honestly, right now, this isn't great either. Can we point the gun somewhere else? Can you stand behind me so I don't know it's being pointed at me?
Oh, well, we've covered the beginning of the film. I also want to talk about the ending of this film because this is a wild film, and
It really is.
massive spoiler warning here. But then again, I actually don't think talking about this or knowing this will really spoil the film for you. But anyway, due diligence done. What did you make of the ending, Nick? Because suddenly, after having watched Travolta kill innocent people in order to kind of pull off this heist, we're suddenly expected to consider him a hero because he's stolen this money in order to finance sort of an extrajudicial sort of scheme to kill off the world's terrorists. And it's just, it's, as I say, I hadn't seen this film for 15 years. And I'd kind of forgotten the detail of that ending. I was just blown away by it. I was just thought, this is mad.
It's what adds to the confusion of it, right? Because all throughout he talks about, the movie, it's not real. Then he talks about Houdini and how he's able to make things kind of happen in front of you with misdirection, all this other stuff, right? But at no point is he really telling what his plan is. He talks about how, the government has this money and it's just sitting there. Imagine what you can do with it. He talks about going to, I'm probably going to get this wrong. Maybe it's Istanbul. It's a random country. And he's like, you can get nukes for like $40 million a piece. They'll give you a discount if you buy more of them. It's like, okay, so are you a supervillain? Like, why do you want to buy nukes? What's the point of this? Is he saying, you can buy nukes from this country at such a cheap price, we need to stop them. And with this money, we can stop them. He doesn't do a good enough job explaining, like, why he's doing what he's doing. And this is going to sound crazy. There are Marvel villains that have better explained what they're doing and have had, like, a decent enough, like, hey, maybe they're not wrong type of feel to it. You know what I mean? The first one that comes to mind, you've got Killmonger and Black Panther, and obviously the big bad Thanos throughout the series. Like, these are characters that they have a decent idea and concept. Now, the execution, a lot to be questioned there. But the idea as a whole, you know what I mean? Like, the planet is, or the universe is overrun too many people. If I snap my fingers, half of it's gone. And there are a lot of benefits to that, yes, but there's so much more on the other side that's not. With Travolta, if he would have been like, look, I need this money. Here's what I'm going to do with this money. I think that, Hugh Jackman's character Stanley would have been a little more receptive to that. He would have been like, okay, this is weird, but I'll do this for you. Because he can tell him, you've got injustices in your life. Look what's happened with you and your wife and your daughter. And then kind of pull him in and manipulate him that way. Because John Travolta's character, Gabriel, very manipulative, very charming guy. People are obviously doing for him because he's got them in kind of his web and his intrigue. So as mouthy as he gets, as monologue-y as he gets, as charming as he gets, we really don't know at the end of the day what he's trying to do. So I agree with you. When we get to the boat and they're talking about, somebody died or whatever, it's like, okay, cool. What do you want me to say to that? Like, he's killed people in the process, or has he? We don't know. And again, the film tonally doesn't decide what it's doing. Is it a thriller? Is it a heist film? Is it an action thing? You can have it be all of those things, but things need to be clearly defined. If there were little thriller elements and misdirection that he picked up on earlier in the film, instead of having some big realization at the end, that would maybe work and it would land a little bit better.
And you could have Travolta as this character who believes so strongly in the morality or the righteousness of what he's doing by sort of stealing this money so that he can go around the globe, like killing off terrorists who are a threat to America. You could have him as that's his objective, and you could present him as somebody who, well, if I have to kill a few innocent people in order to get that money to be able to do that work, well, I think the greater good I will do outweighs some of the individual acts that I have to do in order to achieve that. You could do that, and it's a moral question for the audience member as to, like, well, where do you land on that kind of mathematical equation? You could do that, but this film is not actually interested in engaging with questions about morality here, and it's just. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't seem to have thought out that aspect of the film at all, which is just really, really bizarre because it's so distinct, it's so unusual that you sort of think that that's what perhaps intrigued the director to get involved in this project, Travolta, or the writer, like, I want to do something different. But, no one actually seems to have thought through the morality of any of that. It's just truly, truly bizarre.
Yeah, and even when they attempt to do that, it's completely surface level, and it feels like filler. When they're on the bus making their escape, he talks about, if there was a deadly disease, would you kill one innocent girl in order to cure humanity? Or something along the lines of that. And he was like, no, I couldn't do it. And he says, what about 10, 100, that? He starts building up those kind of numbers. Now, if they had a deeper, conversation about that, you could make it work. And you could have it be a genuine discussion and, really promote the idea of, okay, wow, as an audience member, what would I do? And then you can have those conversations with your friends after the movie or dinner drinks or however, talking about the movie, like, hey, when they brought up this, what would you do? How would you do it? And then you can start to build and have those fun things. But instead, it's just really surface level to where it's like, all right, this jerk, what are we doing here? Shut up. Just abduct me, drop me off in a desert somewhere, but just shut up.
Well, let's talk a little bit about John Travolta here, and let's really talk specifically about his appearance, because it's pretty unforgettable. I mean, if you need a little reminder, Travolta's got his hair styled. It's all swept back into something that looks a little bit like a demi-mullet, and he has this little thin goatee beard. Now, I remember 2001 pretty well, and I certainly don't remember this ever being a look back in 2001. I mean, what? I don't know. Were you as bemused by John Travolta's appearance in this film as I was?
I think it was just one of those, he walks on the screen and you're like, oh, he's the bad guy. That's all it is. That's nothing more than just going, yep, bad guy. We got it. We know that when we're looking at this, even with the sound off, he's the bad guy. He's the one that's dressing in the nice suits, fancy ties, hair slicked back, little just faint facial hair. The 5 o'clock shadow that Hugh Jackman's rocking, that was more of a thing. Not this little teeny soul patch on his chin that Travolta's got going. And you know what's funny? The whole time I'm watching this, I'm just like, this would be so much better if it was Nick Cage and not John Travolta. So much better. Cage would have eaten this role alive, and I think that would have pushed it into that cult-like status where it's like, oh, have you ever seen Nick Cage in a hacker film, Unhinged? No. Well, here's Swordfish.
Yeah, you know what, Nick? That's a really good shout. And Gone in 60 Seconds, which was Dominic Senna's previous film, that had Nick Cage in, didn't it? So,
yeah.
I mean...
And so did Season of the Witch.
Yeah. So it might have been... There might be an alternative universe out there where Nick Cage is the star of Swordfish. And yeah, I agree with you. I could absolutely see him chewing this film to pieces. And I think, and frankly, that sort of performance would only improve this film. But...
Because it's not like Travolta doesn't have the range. But Travolta, I feel, when he acts, he's either all good or he's all bad. Nick Cage can dance that. He can be trusting and all of a sudden, bang, oh no, he's psychotic. He's completely different. He can make you feel safe and then take that away from you in an instant. And I don't think Travolta can do that. And I don't know if it's because of the characters that Travolta has played in the past, but in this film, for me, he just kind of doesn't work. And then when we get to the end of the movie, right, he's on that boat. His hair's completely different. It's all stylized and frosted tips and all that. And I'm like, you couldn't have done that the whole film? Why'd you have to rock with this look the whole time? I think it's just a Hollywood cliche kind of thing. It's just, hey, this is who I am and what it is. And it's or is it just you saw it in a movie once and you're like, yeah, that'd be a cool look. And you just went with it.
Okay, I think it's time to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the exploding helicopter action.
Wow.
David Lightman, hold it right there, please.
The FBI thinks he's a spy.
We got something.
What the? The Pentagon thinks he's a world power.
Mr. President, this is Barringer and Nora.
David!
And his parents think he's up in his room.
All right.
Negative, this is not an exercise.
What's happening here?
Wow. War games, rated PG.
We're back, and now we're looking at the exploding helicopter action. This occurs towards the end of the film. To make their escape after their bank heist, Travolta has the bus that he and the hostages are on scooped up by a Sikorsky S-64F Skycrane. The heavy-duty copter dumps the bus on top of a skyscraper so that the Scientology botherer can make a sneaky switch to another chopper. To stop the getaway, Hugh Jackman grabs a rocket launcher, which he curiously knows how to use, and fires it at the chopper, an MD-900 Explorer, blowing it up. Nick, what did you make of the exploding helicopter action?
I'm so glad you said that, because you and I have seen a myriad of movies, and we'll see more and more as we get older. If you gave me a rocket launcher, a missile launcher, a grenade launcher, even a machine gun, am I really going to know how to use it based off of what I've seen? No. And yet we get a quick moment where he's like trying to fidget it with the missile to get it, or the rocket to get it in there, and he finally fires it. How does he know it's like a heat-seeking kind of thing, or it's going to hit? How does the force trajectory of the shot not knock him back a little bit? Like, there's just the recoil. There's so many questions I have from just that moment. But then when we get to the explosion, very similar to what we saw at the beginning of the film with that massive bank explosion, as soon as we see the chopper pulling away and it's all CGI, I'm like, well, this is about to blow up. There's no question in my mind, right? It's not like they're going to miss and then off we go. But not only does he shoot the helicopter, we actually see the whole of impact where the missile hits. And I don't think I've ever seen that outside of if a bolt or arrow or some type of piece of metal goes through the windshield and impales the pilot of the helicopter. That we've seen before, so we obviously see the impact mark there. But I've never seen an impact mark in a helicopter once it's hit. So I found that to be pretty neat. It doesn't look good from the visual effects standpoint, but I'm like, okay, this is something different than I can appreciate. But the biggest part of it is all of the cool big explosion parts that we want to see. It's just reactions of people's faces. It's Don Cheadle, oh, looking away. It's Hugh Jackman, oh, looking away. And then we just kind of see the blades on fire, and it just drifts away, not even out of screen completely. Like, we don't really see as much of it as we could and should. It just flames, drifts away, and then there's no follow-up. Where does it go? Does it go to the ground and crash and burst into flame and there's a bigger explosion? We don't hear it when they're picking Hugh Jackman up off the roof and they're walking him off and the other officers are just kind of looking around. So, well, again, it is cool to see an impact shot, like literally a hole in the helicopter where it went in, but just the execution of this all around, and it's probably my least favorite exploding helicopter I've ever seen in any of the films that I've watched since coming on your show.
That's quite a statement, Nick. That's quite a statement. But well, you bring up the quality of the exploding helicopter, and it's interesting that you mentioned that, because it seems like the filmmakers themselves weren't happy with the exploding helicopter here, because apparently in order for this particular scene, they created a quarter-scale model that they were going to blow up for this particular sequence, and they actually had to then digitally enhance that work, because the stunt work that they did for that proved unsatisfactory. So they then had to augment what they'd got with the model work shots in order to enhance the sequence. And so that may explain why we don't get to see, because it's a very brief, the helicopter explosion on screen is very brief, and then it's gone. And as you say, it's all reaction shots. We don't see any wreckage like crashing down into the street or anything like that. So it's very, very quick, brief, and moving on to the next things. And it sounds like it's better we show less than try to show more, because we haven't quite nailed this explosion. And in a big action film, that's kind of unforgivable, really. And especially if we're going to have an exploding helicopter, as part of the climax of the film, then that's something that you really need to be delivering on. The other thing that really disappointed me about the exploding helicopter here, Nick, and I don't know if it bothered you, but they blew up the wrong helicopter. Maybe it's just because I've seen hundreds of helicopters explode in films. I wanted to see that Skycrane helicopter blow up, because I haven't seen one like that blow up. Like, blow that up. Not this, boring old one.
When I saw that come onto the screen, I went, oh my goodness. I got so excited. I'm like, how are they going to blow this up? Is it going to be a missile? Is it going to get hit with something else? Are they going to shoot it down? I can't wait. And then when it picks up the bus, I'm like, okay, maybe they're going to get bold, shoot it down with everybody inside, and they're all going to die. It's going to be a crazy, depressing ending because in the beginning they talk about how everybody wants a happy ending. They're going to subvert that expectation and hit you with like an absolute downer ending. And then when they land, I'm like, oh, it's just going to be a regular one. Okay, I guess so. And then seeing it looked all CGI like it was, I'm like, well, this is just further more disappointing. And again, it just goes to show that I don't even think they understood tonally what they wanted to do with the film, because you could have done it a myriad of ways. You know, you could have done the whole, Hollywood needs a happy ending, and then boom, it is a sad ending. All those hostages die. Hugh Jackman's character dies. Obviously, his daughter, the mother, and the stepdad who does porn and stuff, because, why not? They're all dead. So the little girl's got nobody. That's wholly depressing, right? But instead, it's like, hey, we're on camping trips, going to wherever we want to go. And, really, the little girl should be in school learning. But no, let's just travel across America in an RV. And then, Halle Berry's in Monte Carlo with John Travolta. And, he got a haircut. And they're on a boat. And they're killing terrorists. I'm like, okay, I guess. Like, I guess we're doing all these things now. It is frustrating because there's so much they could have done. And I wholeheartedly agree. They should have blown up that helicopter and not the little pimbly one that we got.
They really should have. Okay, I think that just about wraps things up for this show. Nick, thanks for joining me once again. Is there anything you'd like to plug before we go?
Yeah, absolutely. Just head over to rabbitholepodcasts.com. I'm on 2 shows over there. Play MST for me and Lyrical Innuendo. When you have some time, check both of those out.
And as always, don't forget to check out the Exploding Helicopter website for more information and reviews of films where helicopters explode. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Letterboxd. We'll be back soon, but until then, what should people do, Nick?
Keep watching the skies for those exploding helicopters.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.